center of me. Please let me feel inner peace from my center, at the center of me. Please let me feel inner peace from my center, at the center of me. Please let me feel peace from my center, at the center of me. My heart is open, I am aware, in me's a knowing of love, love, love. My heart is open, I am aware, in me's a knowing of love, 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 love.
Listen more often to things than to things. Listen more often to things than to things. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees, they are in the groaning woods, they are in the crying grass, they are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to things. Listen more often to things than to things. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast, they are in the wailing child. They are with us in the home, they are with us in the crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to these than to these. Listen more often to these than to these. 'Tis the ancestors' word when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' word in the voice of the waters. Listen more often to these than to these. Listen more often to these than to these.
So how good it is to be here. So good to be here now. In the African American tradition, coming back, dating back from our ancestors and the indigenous people of all lands, we open this gathering with our traditional libation, with our team of wonderfulness that have gathered to join us. Libation is honoring all that has come before us, past, present, and future. Our children were our ancestors, guided master teachers, ascended masters, teachers, guides, and guardians. And the earth and the stars and the moon and the animals are our ancestors. They are our tentacles, they inform us. So we start this libation, first honoring in the tradition that I've grown to know it as the oldest among us and honoring the youngest among us, gathering all those in between, knowing those who have come before us and those who are coming after us are being held. So with a nod, Sister Day, we can begin. Thank you. This is the libation bowl. And in this bowl, I pour water. Water representing the majority of the substance on this earth, the majority of the substance in our body. Water as rain, water as the ocean, water that liquidates the soul. So we honor and we begin this with the pouring, the libation of water. And I asked my sisters to join with me in the pouring and the recognition and the honoring of the elements, the fire gods. The air, the breath that informs our beingness. Our ability to hear the sound of the crows I hear outside joining us in this ceremony. Kicking up a storm, grateful for the storms that allow the clearing and the rest and the peace that comes after that. So I pour this liquid representing the liquid love that's inside of us that permeates every aspect of our beingness. We pay tribute to the we-ness of us, to the inner knower of us, to the animal kingdom, to the insects that allow us to keep moving this soil underneath our feet, that allows the moisture of the earth from the rains. Grateful for the water that comes through us as our tears that cleanse and allow openings. Grateful for the wind that moves and clears the path. And grateful for our human ancestors, all those who have come before us to make our way clear. We call out the largeness of those that we know of that carry us to this moment, the sisters, the Winnies and the Nzingas and the queens that have come before us, the kings, the brothers, the Nelsons and the Martins and the Che Guevaras and the healing force that comes through us as those who allow us to be who and what we are. I give thanks for this Tonga land, for the Choctaw bloodline in me. I give thanks for all of those who are on this call who have ancestral energies that are ascended and are here with us now opening this portal. And I give thanks for this team of wise ones. And I ask you to join in this libation.
Lorraine Griffiths.
Augusta Singleton.
Christiana Placid, George Alexis, Cynthia Alexis.
Rafael Morales, Catalino, Ramona, Carmelo, Lucy. Ashe.
Grateful for the sea spirits. Grateful for those names we don't know that hold us now. Grateful for all those who have passed the baton to all of those and to all of us. Grateful for the opportunity to join in this communal healing, to allow the love and the light and the brilliance of this energetic form this evening to hug us, to hold us, to open us up in ways that we've never known before. This is the time for exactly where we are and what we are doing. This is in divine order. I give thanks to divine order. Blessing this gathering, knowing it is in perfect order, it is in perfect peace, and it is done in a perfect way. For this and so much more, I give thanks. And if we are in agreement with all those who are chatting up with us today, we simply say Ashe, Ashe, or Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Oh, that was so moving and warm, Estella. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So good evening, everyone, morning or afternoon, wherever you find yourself right now in the world and in time. Some of us exist out of time as well as in time. But however you are arriving, I just want to offer welcome to you. I am Carlene Griffiths Sekou, and it is really a gift and a blessing to hold this space with you. We are cultivating a space that is co-creative, that is participatory. And so we very much see you as a part of this conversation. So we come as sojourners along the way with you. We come knowing that there are many that have come before us, and that we as community, whether intimate or distal, right, we all are tied and linked and connected. And so we are really blessed. Yes, indeed, it's a blessing to gather, to be here together, to think about what it means as embodied beings, to hold grief, lament, and joy in the time of COVID. And we are lifting up and underscoring, as this is part 2 of the conversation that we had before, we're underscoring that this time of year is particularly complicated for many people. I say that also recognizing that for the last, we've been in a pandemic, so for quite some time now, and that too has impacted us in ways that that are unimaginable, that we were not prepared for. We have experienced deep transitions and change and loss and disruption. And we have also seen how the human community, on many levels, if you anchor yourself in your own community, we can think of ways that living within and through a pandemic has tried and tested us. Yes, through death and loss and transition, but also through a shift, right? A disruption of what has held us, the normalities, the normal things, right? Be that going to work every day in a particular rhythm or cadence, meeting socially, communing with friends, going to spaces of faith and spiritual practice, praxis, and worship, going to spaces for exercise. And so we're underscoring and acknowledging that our humanity is touched by all of this. And in particular, when it comes to grief and loss, and even lament, the unabashed expression of deep emotions, such as sorrow and pain and sadness. At times we are not free to do so. At times we are constrained. And so the space this evening will talk a bit about lament a bit more. And the holidays in particular brings, as I said, complications for many, which we can underscore and talk a bit now. So I invite you to participate in our chat with your questions, with your thoughts. This is very dialogical. We want to be in conversation with you. We want to sit with you. We are sitting with each other, holding each other. I also want to say that we do not diagnose. We are not diagnosing. We are not prescribing. Um, we are not medical or in the traditional Western sense. We are not clinicians. However, we are engaging ancient wisdom and practices that are diverse, that are reflective of the diversity that we are, and some wisdoms that we know and have learned, and practices that have been bequeathed to us through indigeneity, through formal education, informal education, and organic learning. From across the diaspora, as well as interconnected diasporas. And so we invite you again to offer your wisdom and your stories and your experiences to edify all of us as we anchor ourselves, as we ground ourselves in spirit, in body, in mind, in the fullness of our being, and as we connect and interconnect with each other. And so you are welcome. Thank you for being here, and we are looking forward to our time together. Sister Luana.
Evening, beloveds, and thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to invite you to join me in a practice where we're just going to move our waters with the winds of our breath. You know, so we have been so lovingly welcomed in so many ways. I hope that in this breath, you could feel the texture. There's something that happens when we invite our ancestors into the space. So I just want us to imagine what it feels like to be held, to have the hands on your back, your heart, your head, of all of the benevolent ones of our lineages, but also we're here in community. So just imagine that we are extending the shawls of protection, all of those that pray for us in this realm and in the other, that we're also extending this blanket of protection and prayer all over each other across time and space. So I'm going to invite you to either close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever feels accessible to you in this moment. As we go into this part of the rhythm of the breath, because our time together, you know, sometimes it feels like wind, sometimes it feels like water, in its stillness, in the waves, in the currents. So from wherever you are, you should imagine just beginning to take in a breath through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Feeling perfectly held by the earth, by Mama Earth's expansiveness, limitlessness. Feeling perfectly held by the place that you've chosen to sit or lay. Notice what it feels like to just be perfectly held here. Really be able to sink in and really just rub the anointing of the prayer that Estella brought to us into your skin and into your heart and into the parts of you that need to experience that softness. Where we're calling in the element of the earth, Pachamama, Great Mother, beginning from a place of gratitude for all of the things that the earth provides. because we come from people who know how to be in relationship with the earth. Giving gratitude for the generosity, the nourishment, giving us everything that we need to not just nourish ourselves, earth being our home, and also growing the medicine that heals us. So we say thank you. We give thanks to the fire, the sacred portal where we are closest to the ancestors. We invite the medicine of the fire to animate us, to transform the parts of us, of our lives that need alchemizing, the parts of us that need it to experience warmth. Inviting it to radiate, to activate our vitality and our life force. We say thank you to the fire. Now we say thank you to the wind. Giving gratitude for the prayers that the wind will carry into the places that we long for them to land. The wind spreads the seeds. So may the longings and the prayers that we have for ourselves and for each other, may the wind carry them into fertile soil, into a place where it will grow abundantly, so we can experience it in our lives and in the lives of the collective. Giving gratitude to the water, the ancient one, the one who has always been here since the beginning, that carries all of the stories and the prayers and the memories and the tears. Water as medicine and as nourishment, as teacher. May the ways that we walk and are together install the memory of healing into the waters inside and outside of ourselves. And as we held in the power of all of these elements, I want us to imagine that across time and space, whether you're with us now or you'll join us at a later time, noticing what it feels like to be connected across time and space, to be held in the shawl prayers of all of our collective ancestors summoned into this space. Noticing what it feels like to be connected to the roots, nourishing each other. And from this place of perfect support, preparing ourselves to soften. What are the conditions that we need to feel soft, to feel safe? May this container that we're co-creating create the conditions for whatever shape your grief takes to be welcome here, to be present here, and to be safe here. So from this space, I want us to come back here in our softness and just talk about what shape, what different shape does grief take in you? How can we witness it, touch it, help it move? you're invited to share what your reflections are in the chat. I'm curious, what comes up for us with those questions from the soft, squishy, really connected space. Mhm.
I have experienced in the past um, the somatic response to grief, um, which has led, live viscerally in my body, which has led to sleeplessness. Not being able to sleep is one way that grief is manifested in my body.
Mhm. Yes,
Mm.
it's in the back. Hmm. Yeah, grief. I feel like it takes turns taking so many different shapes, depending, it has like different textures. Um, I'm remembering, recently was my papa's um, heavenly birthday. And, he passed around 11, 12 years ago. And I remember the first birthday, whoo, my body hurt. I was sleeping. I was so sad like that first year. Like I would just feel it before I knew why I was sad. And it was and so like it took the shape of, I was concave. I was curled up. I was achy. I wasn't nourishing myself well. And just like remembering um, the first year that I remembered him in joy, where the shape that I took was celebratory, where I could hear him in the drums. Papa was a drummer. And I could hear it in his song. And there was something that the shape that I took was celebratory. So I could dance. I could listen to some bomba and dance.
Mm.
Joyfully and tearfully. Yeah, so those are some of the shapes that grief has taken for me for sure.
I want to share
Yeah.
some of the comments that are so rich. One person, I don't know if I can say their names, but one person, Lauren, says, grief manifests for me in mental illness. And I thought, wow, how profound is that? My mother was paranoid schizophrenic, and I have two sisters who are mentally ill, schizophrenic. Never even thought about just the overwhelming emotions that can break the body down. Someone else says, shallow breath, heaving. Someone else says she and her husband slept endlessly related to the pandemic, feeling very fatigued. Astrid says she loses her appetite. Um, I think sometimes when I'm grieving, I'm angry. Shows up as anger for me. Um, um, I wish I could tell you I could draw a picture of grief, but I can't because it always changes. It's always looking different. It's like, oh, wow, it's grief today, huh? You know? So, um, so I thank all of you who added to the chat so that I could just share that. Procrastination. Oh Lord, is that what grief is? All my life.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes, indeed.
yes, indeed. And I think you made a good point, Estella. Grief shows up in different ways on different days. Sometimes just in different hours. I can start off at the beginning of the day and I can tell myself I must, there's this stuff that I must do because life must go on. But 45 minutes later, I'm sitting in a corner, staring off into space because I've lost the rhythm. And that's where I am for today. And then tomorrow it looks different.
Yeah, someone in the chat, Denise wrote, I believe that grief can also cause you to feel lost and alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And holidays are the worst triggers, especially because there's this expectation out there that it's so joyful and that there must be something that you're missing if you're not joyful. And who do you talk to? Who do you say? Who do you talk to? What do you say to get people to understand that not all of us do, and that we must have space for that. We need a holiday card that says, I'm holding on.
Yeah,
Mm.
doing the best that you can.
I'm doing the best I can.
Sitting with grief past the time limit set by others. Thank you for that. It's like,
Absolutely.
can we talk about the 3 to 5 day bereavement policies,
Yes.
organizations, that many organizations have, as if, yeah, as if it's ever enough. And even it also makes me think about the ways that sometimes it's like, it feels so big that we actually busy ourselves.
Yes.
Like we say yes to all the projects and we do all the things and we're move, because when we slow down, we're just scared of what's going to come up. So just like naming that, yeah, that way that sometimes the way we protect ourselves from what feels so big is to busy ourselves, and I think with all of this is like, what is the right rhythm? Like really listening to your body's wisdom, because nobody knows more than you and better than you.
Yes.
Someone wrote, an only child, missing parents. And, this time of year is such not only festivities, but feasting and typically togetherness. But this has always been for the entirety of our lives, right? That we somehow enter into this world either in some form of connection. And oftentimes that connection may not be a joyous one or a positive one. And this time just harkens upon these age-old and ritualistic traditions, and these expectations And for many, it's a time of pain and trauma. It's a time of disconnection and disruption and reorientation to what it means to be healthily and healthfully connected and community to oneself, in one's body, in one's being, as well to community. And you know, as we live in this pandemic, to the world, to the external cultural cadences and demands and expectations, right? And so it is a multiplicity of ways that we are put upon. And I really think it's important to be conscious, to bring these ways. Sometimes your body tenses up and it's not in your conscious mind. It's just a somatic, autonomic response. But to be mindful of the way that we are responding and be mindful of the choices and the ways that we can move through grief, loss, expressions of lament. They're not linear. It is not linear. There are no time limits. There's no expiration date on your grief, on your anger, on your sadness, on your mourning.
I think a lot about space, as somebody wrote here about a friend who lost her brother and she still has to work, and what you said, Luana, about just those 3 to 5 days. I think about the space that transition actually takes, you know, the transition of, you know, that grieving process, where I feel like we're like, we need space to make this shift and this turn. Is like we have to take a wide berth, and even before we can turn, you've got to stop, you know, got to stop and then turn this big, you know, massive, yeah. And just that lack of that space is what I'm feeling in that comment. And just as I think about that physical sense of the need for space.
I think this comment is really profound to me. I'm coming to recognize that my grief is not transitory. It's not a transitory experience, but an additional layer of my being. What an eloquent way to express that.
My grief for certain losses comes as tears and sobs rip from my lungs, and I have to gasp. That works itself out over time, and I can unclench, and then I write. For other losses, grief comes first as anger, and my muscles tighten so I can hardly move. So it's long, but it's wonderful to tighten so I could hardly move. So for that, go outside, stand, natural space, focus on my body, feeling the ground beneath my feet, ground that's always there, the trees, the shrubs, the water flowing, the new growth, the connection back to nature helps that. Thank you, Trudy, for writing all of that and sharing how you move through the pain. Love that. I have a friend who just lost her friend, and it was in the newspaper. She was murdered in a home invasion, and 81 years old. And I don't know what to say to my friend. I mean, it's so, I mean, it's like, you know, it's like, nothing I could say. and it's not like I want to say something to take the, I can just sit in the pain with her if
Mhm.
necessary.
Mhm.
You know, I can just be quiet with
Mhm.
her. And then my thought was, I remember going to a funeral of someone who passed away. And I remember this young man said, don't think of them on their last day. And this particular woman who was murdered was 81 years old, and I calculated it. That's 29,000 days on the planet. And then I calculated my days on the planet. I'm about 5 or 10,000 less. But my point is, it's like I get to think of them in their fullness, you
Mhm.
know, in their life,
Right.
in their lifeness,
Right.
and that helps me
Mhm.
to move past the pain of it,
Mhm.
of that one day, you know, that changed my life.
Mhm.
Mm.
Hmm.
And I think you make an important point, Estella, in that sometimes it's not words. I, people don't need words. They just need to know that there's recognition that I'm processing something, and that it's all right if you don't know what to say to me. Just knowing that you are recognizing the space I'm in and are willing to share it with me, since as so many times other people are so concerned about death and dying that they close up, and they don't mention my loved one. They don't bring up situations or good times that we had. I'm taking care of them. At the same time, I'm trying to take care of my own loss.
Mm.
And just knowing that there's somebody who will just be with me and recognize and share as much as they can, that's critical. It's golden. It's perfect.
Yeah, that resonates with me as well. There is such a thing as Chris Leonard said in the chat, which were my thoughts as well, that the ministry of presence, the gift of your
Mhm.
presence,
Your presence, yes.
non-anxious presence, just to be with
Mhm.
the person experiencing loss. It reminds me of a time a few years back. I was in community, and a dear sister friend lost her college-age daughter suddenly. And I remember we were a part of a school community, a close-knit community, school context, and I was horrified. I knew the young woman. We had done theater and arts and cultural things together. And so I was devastated to learn that. And for a moment, I hesitated to call her mother just because what does one say?
Mhm.
And then it dawned on me, I won't call, I will just go.
Mhm.
And I did. I went to their home. We had that relationship, and there were others there, and basically that was it. We were just there. And years later, a couple years, she expressed how wonderful it was that people just showed up and were present with her, held her in her grief. We didn't have to say anything. We didn't have to do anything. We just showed up and we were present. And there is a real gift in knowing that you can just be your authentic self and be with. But at times, emotions, deep and passionate expression makes us uncomfortable, makes many folks to be around someone who is sobbing and weeping and crying is as uncomfortable as being around someone who's raging, and angry. At times different registers and emotional triggers and sensory systems, of course. But the point is that we are not necessarily adept and fluid in knowing how to be with intense emotions or difficult situations like grief and loss.
What a gift of just showing up. I think that, one of the things that, I've often heard from folks who are experiencing loss, and I could say this for myself, when someone says, let me know if you need anything.
Mm.
And like the effort that it takes in your moment of just like despair to pick up the phone, to eat. And how beautiful that, like may we all have those people who can show up at our house with some food, with who don't rush to say it'll be okay, who don't rush to say, who don't rush to meaning making, and let you they're in a better place, no longer suffering. And sometimes these are like well-meaning things that I think we're like used to saying. But in the middle of your despair, sometimes it's like just hearing, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. Or even just being in silence and bringing food, or washing those dishes. If you don't know, wash some dishes.
Right.
Like take their pet for a walk if that's what they need. And also, and also like knowing our place in the context of our relationship with a person too. Because in those moments of vulnerability, when we feel so soft, I know that sometimes like I've experienced like that well-meaning someone who I don't have that emotional closeness with, trying to insert themselves to do something that is like, well, we don't have, that level of trust here, like, thank you. But just like, and it's okay to not know, but just like show up anyway, and loving all of the generosity and the love that's happening in the chat. People are supporting each other so beautifully. I'm just really loving the way that community is showing up for each other in there.
Yeah, Trudy, it is. Not being able to be physically present with those who were grieving during the worst COVID. Yeah, I had intimate experience with that as well. It's the loss of these sacred ritual practices. On top of the loss of all of the complex losses when someone is no longer physically present with us. And even if when instances when our loved one or our friend, our beloved has not transitioned from in the physical body, or have not died. If they're experiencing, if they're in the hospital and they are sick and we are separated, there is a certain, I've had that, many of us have had that experience as well. And there's a certain helplessness, a certain loss of care and expression of love. And yes, we pray and we send, healing thoughts, and there are many things we can do. But many of us are used to physically accompanying and being present with and caring for in a familial sense our loved one, and that too is disruptive during this time. You know, and we may or may not get to excavate this, but you know, a question is coming up for me. What grief and loss is a space of transformation.
Mhm.
It is a place of not only transition, we often speak of it as
Mhm.
it forces transition, for a certain kind of transition, one we weren't prepared for necessarily, one we don't choose necessarily. We transition, and so, but in that transition, what kinds of transformation
Mhm.
happens? And that's just a question on the table. That's something I'm sitting with during this particular moment, and I'll share more about that.
Lauren wrote in the chat in relationship to that, I thank whatever gods may be for post-traumatic growth. The grief taught me how to be happy.
Oh, I love that.
Mm.
So very true.
Initiation, Aisha says. Yes, I sometimes think of it as an initiation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Those of us who have gone out to help other people with their grief, then come home and hit the wall with our own. We need this kind of honest conversation. Ashe.
Mhm.
Ashe, thank you so much for that, Joy.
And something you said, Carlene, made me think about ambiguous grief. Ambiguous because the person isn't gone. They're very ill. They've been away. They've moved away. Losses come in so many different shapes and sizes. I know that sometimes a loss of a relationship can be just as deep and have just as much of an effect on us as the death of a loved one, because so much must change because of that loss. But ambiguous loss is harder still because there isn't an ending. It's the gradual fading away, like something running down a drain rather than having something cut off. And so how do we manage that kind of a loss and that type of grief, especially when we may be surrounded by people who don't think that that's important, that you should be able to get over that or move on, or whatever the language might be. And because our loved one is missing, or this important part of my life is changing, and there's not, just as much as we don't handle death and dying well as a culture, we also have such high expectations of what it means to get over it, that when people are dealing with these ambiguous losses, there's even less support, because there isn't a body. We can find some human connection if there's a corpse, but we have a much harder time working with people and walking with them through losses that don't have those very clear indicators.
Yeah, another occurrence that comes up day is family separation.
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes, yeah, I hear that most often as well. And it takes me back through transition and transformation. But it isn't linear. You know, there are secular movements throughout our lifespan, really. Um, you know, as I think about the theme of lament, it happens to be something you know, there's recognition that your body remembers. I think your being remembers. Um, Experiences that one have had throughout your lives. And so for many of us, the memory of loss or an experience of loss, maybe the death of someone, resides in our body. It resides in our spirit. It resides just in who we are, but we never know how it will be triggered. And in a sense of cycle, this is the time of year a most visceral experience I've had with lament. It is this time of year, and some of you have heard me talk about this, that I experienced the loss of my sister, my big sister. She passed away suddenly on December 5th. And right around this time, I experienced just a sadness and a heaviness. And I often, and it's been years now, but often my mind don't remember the date, right? It's not something that I track on a regular basis, but it's cyclical. And it has gotten different and less painful. And I've done a lot of integration, and but it's still present. And so I realized this was happening, that it is approaching the death anniversary of my elder sister. And it was really interesting what made me realize it. I was in Jamaica, where I grew up. And I was walking past a ball field the very last time my sister and I were together in that particular geography. It was at this ball field, ball meaning cricket, not basketball, not football.
Thank you for that
Ball
cultural collection for us.
Right, I was passing by and all of a sudden, the last time we were together, we went to the ball field to watch the cricket match. She braided my hair. It was a big to-do. She braided my hair before, and I sat on her lap the entire time. And that triggered a memory. And it's a happy memory. It's a beautiful memory. And you know, I don't think it's happenstance that again, this time was approaching. And then subsequent days, I began to feel the heaviness, the loss in my body, the remembering of what is to come, as much as holding her 15-year-old daughter in my breast as she sobbed and wailed and lament and held her listless body. She was so engulfed with pain and grief at the loss of her mother. And you know, this level or mode or ways, I don't want to say level it to create any hierarchies, not that simply is not the case. But I'm thinking about why is it so very difficult for us to integrate in the life cycle, right? The range of our human expressions that occur in our sadness, in our joy, in our grief, even unto lament, right? Because lament is deep and viscerally expressed externally most often. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying other forms or ways or modes of holding and moving through and experiencing deep loss aren't deep, right? I'm not creating a hierarchy, but I am saying that there is a very intense and passionate, visceral, physical, external expression, right? Oral, it is uttered, it is wailed, it is sung. Their moans, their groans, right? That often, and this isn't prescriptive either. It you know, it could be ways in which we write or scribe the intensity of our emotions. And so I think what I'd like to engage around the topic of lament is where are spaces and how do folks hold lament? Right. I was going to ask, why is it so difficult for us? But we've talked about a lot of reasons why it is so difficult for us. And there is a cleansing that happens, right? The promise and the gift in allowing and enabling this liberty of being fully human and expressive. It is in a sense to release that which we have never been in control of. We've been conditioned to be in control.
Yes.
To have control, to perform in a sense, a certain way, to comport ourselves a certain way.
Yes, appropriately.
But this experience of loss, this touching of our being, of our humanity in a particular way, both creates a portal. Both gives us an opportunity to acknowledge, to recognize the connection in so many ways, and ways that we're conscious of and not conscious of. But also a space and a portal to step into, and I believe in a more liberatory way. Release, connect, cleanse, right? Reimagine, reconnect, revision our beloved, our connection, our relationship. In a different way, in new ways. There's conversation in the chat. Sis Luana, I'm really curious to hear from you as well. As you, this is your work. This is all of our work, and in particular, I want to underscore your beautiful work as I've encountered you in community, in movement, in care, collective care, in individual, interpersonal care. I failed to let folks know, kind of as our guest facilitator, some of the things and ways in which you hold this work. So I think I would love to still do that. I can do it right now. So Luana, it's okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Just so you know, and folks I've already had the honor and the privilege of experiencing your gift. But Luana Morales is an Afro-Boricua birth, death, and ancestral healing arts practitioner, birth and bereavement doula, death midwife, circle keeper, efficient Reiki master, teacher. ritual guide, spiritual coach, herbal apprentice devoted to reclaiming and reimagining our birth. And there's so many other yummy and wonderful and profound and prolific areas and things that Luana brings and embodies and offers to the world. But that point where I stopped, this notion of birthing, because you're a birth doula, you're also, you carry us through the life cycle, as well as a death doula. Perhaps folks aren't familiar with what a death doula is. And so wherever you want to jump in with that, but I'm thinking of this space that I was describing of excruciating pain and the emergence through transition and transformation. I'm also thinking of it as rebirth. Now I am thinking of it as rebirth.
I'm like, I have to recover. I'm like, my introvert has to recover from all that. You know, I think that, and thank you. There is the gateway of birth and death. They're like right next to each other.
Mm.
And the same lack of control, the same closeness to spirit, the same magic exists in those spaces. And, you know, there's a thing that, you know, like getting back to lament. We come from people who expressed their joy boisterously and express our pain boisterously and loudly and beautifully. There are drum rhythms and songs that know how to disarm us, that we know the words to. And I feel, and like some of the suffering that we experience manifests itself somatically because it doesn't get, so like the pain happens and then we store it. And then it's like the accumulation of the storing. So lament, this beautiful way that you express is it's like another homecoming. It is a calling out. It is like the summoning. It is the calling in the same ways that Estella, you know, performed the beautiful libation ceremonies. Like when we call for support to be held. You know, and there's like a thing that happens in the movement of that, the movement of the voice in the collapse, where like, if, you know, even if you feel like you're alone, or even if you're physically alone in that space, I think when we remember that the benevolent ones in the spirit world are holding us, and that we can't collapse beyond the ground because Mama Earth has us, you know, and I really hope and pray that we give ourselves more opportunities to not shush each other, to like stand there with our fear, to stand there, to get used to like, let us become familiar and let us remember, and like that in our bones, you know, there, that it's not as scary as we think. That if we allow ourselves to be still and observe, that the same miracle and wonder of birth exists in the death space. That the same texture in the air of like, they're here. They're here to usher and welcome our earth side, or they're here to bring them back. So because a lot of those stories were taken away from us, there is like parts of the song and parts of the choreography that we don't know, but we understand viscerally that something is missing. which is what makes us ill, which is what makes us feel lost, because we're not supposed to go through this alone. So these are some of the things that were missing even before the pandemic, but have become exacerbated. But because we also come from people who in these moments of adversity, like our genius emerges. We get to time travel across time and space and be here with each other, holding each other's stories, feeling held lovingly, like touched. And, you know, so being like the initiatory experience of my papa's death, of being there, of having him be still enough to notice the freckles on his face that I hadn't noticed before. Because he was always like, on top. That I got to experience this feels just like when I gave birth to the babies, okay. I feel God here too. I feel spirit here too. I feel the ancestors here too. Like, thank you for showing me. So it's, so just, you know, like there is gateways that we go through in our life that it's like we can't plan for. It reminds you of puberty too. The way that our body hurts and we're like, what is happening? And I can't control it. And I don't want to go back. I don't want these changes. This hurts. This feels uncomfortable. And we'll never be the same. And how do we love each other and support each other in this new form? And how can we, learn the songs? And maybe the songs that were taken away from us, what are the songs that we can make up? Because our ancestors, somebody made it up and passed it down. So in the story that was taken away from us and the practice that was taken away from us, you know, let us like learn new songs and learn new ways of like being with each other. You know, and I think that one of the stories, you know, that, you know, I hope the same way that we're reclaiming home births, home deaths, let us bring death back home. You know, because part of what makes it hard is that we are giving in the same way that we're giving 3 to 5 days to bereave, get over it and come back to work, you know, in the ways that, and especially for folks who don't have spiritual communities, you know, that we're working with the funeral industrial complex and we have, you know, we're making all of these decisions and everything's going so fast. And we have to make, and we have a half hour before all of the people come in where you're still numb and you're still like not. So I just also, you know, encourage us to know that there are other things possible that we could experience, you know, and obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I'm not trying to say that this is accessible to everyone and there's a whole bunch of different issues why this might not be accessible, but I invite you to lean in a little bit closer into death. Like lean into the intimacy of what's possible. Lean into what it would feel like to anoint, you know, the body of your loved one with oils. To lovingly wash with rose water. To sing and sob together. We come from people who did that. And know that that is accessible to you. Because, you know, part of what I think interrupts our grief too is the way that we've been distanced from it. From the death itself. So it's like, we're gonna try to make things, we're gonna try to make our loved ones look as alive as possible. So, but there is beauty in the pain and in the shift. Because love exists there. And healing happens when we get to touch it, when we get to experience the reality of it, when we get to experience the truth of it. So I hope that in those moments of our pain, whether it is like a death where life was lost or a different kind of death, may you be able to wail. May you sob it out. May you collapse. May you be lovingly witnessed and held as you heave. And if there aren't humans around you, may you like surrender to Mama Earth and give those tears as a sacred offering to the land. May you not be shushed. May nobody shush you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Mhm.
I love that, Luana. I love that, Luana. Earlier, we talked about permission to be undone. I love that. If I fall apart, I get to put myself back together again. As opposed to holding the crumbled pieces, it's like, I can just let it go. Just let it go. And it reconstitutes itself in a solid kind of way. I remember finding when you break a bone, you'll never be able to break it from that same spot again. It's actually stronger.
Mhm.
When you speak, Luana, I feel the invitation to like lean into and feel the blessing of the miracle of this sense of separation that we have and that we experience being dissolved, if even for a moment. Just feels like such a miracle. And it like called, your speaking called it up in my cells.
Thank you to everyone who came to participate and share. I know some folks are saying they have to leave, but I just want to acknowledge how your contributions have enriched this space, and your care and generosity to us. So thank you so much. I also want to say that we are here every first Friday. That is the rhythm, the cadence of holding this space. It's every first Friday, so we will send out that information the same way that you received it.
Before we leave each other, I had this impulse to accept Luana's invitation to let Mama Earth hold us. In a moment of integrating with the earth, if anybody feels like taking up this invitation or adapting it in your own way, to actually lay on the earth right now, to lay on the floor, to place your belly and your heart and your head on the earth, and to breathe in the earth and to feel as your belly expands. If you don't want to lay down, you could place one hand at the heart space and one hand at the belly. But laying on the earth and placing the palms on the earth and the face, and just feeling, if you're sitting upright, you can sort of allow yourself to lean forward into your hands and feel held by the hands. Feel as if you are lying on the earth, maybe calling up a spot for yourself. It can be someplace you've been, someplace you've never been. touching the cool earth and allowing yourself to feel both its flexibility and also its stability coming into your being. Allowing yourself to take a number of deep breaths with the earth. Letting the breath expel in whatever way, whatever sound needs to let it come out of you. Allowing ourselves to remember that we can always go to the earth. We can always place our whole body on the earth, and we can practice. I love what Luana shared about these moments of initiation that we can't control, and the ways that we can just be in practice of touching the earth and being with the earth. Knowing that we can always go there again and again and again. As you feel ready, allowing yourself to come back to the communal space and maybe massaging the heart a little bit. My heart is full from all of the sharing, all of the ways that we have held each other in this space. May we continue to take up Luana's invitation to learn how to hold each other and to come undone and to let go, as Stella said, and to know that we can hold ourselves and be held by the earth. And there are resources that are offered. We'll also put in the chat document that Luana put together that we can all contribute. You all have so much wisdom. We can bring our collective wisdom of resources and practices so that we may continue in this way together. Asheo.
You are all who our society needs. Thank you all. We're building something more nourishing. Asheo. Thank you for being here, Maria.
Joy Brown says, remembering, putting myself back together in a new way. Tabitha says, so much richness and abundance of spiritual wealth and wisdom. I love you all. I love all of you that I don't see.
It's like we belong to each other.
Very appropriate for the topic, right? It's like, okay. Yes. Thank you.
Tabitha wrote, I am your friend. There is an offering, a soul for soul, a place for your life, home. Know this, sun or water, here are or away. We are the lighthouse. We leave and we stay. Thank you for that. That is just so beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Absolutely.
Oh. Thank you for sharing that too. So we are coming down to our last few moments here, and I just want to make sure that if you all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. This is our Black Lives Matter Healing Justice Space that we offer first Friday of every month. We're excited about our emergence and what is to come. We may not know specifically, but we will be together. We will hold each other. We will love one another. And we will seek the divine, our ancestors, and the wisdom of the earth, ancient wisdoms, to carry us.
Mm.
And Luana, I turn it over to you. And then after you, Raymond can play us out with some lovely music.
Mm. Like what's emerging right now? Because I feel something bubbling. See, so so like grief in this moment and everything is just like I feel like we've gone through these waves, we've gone through this journey, and our hearts are like so full. I just feel us. I feel like the luminosity. I feel the vastness. I feel like what happens when you're loved skillfully and well, when you're seen. I just like the ways that folks have connected so intimately.
Mhm.
So I want to offer a song, and I'm not the best singer, so but I sing from my heart. Because the other thing is like we come from people who just sing songs in community.
Yes.
Not about like the bestest. There's this beautiful song, and I hope that you feel it in your heart the way I'm feeling it in my heart right now. All right. I'm like, nobody look at me. So, Babule Ali Baba, oh Babule, Babule, Babule Ali Baba, Babule Ali Baba, oh Babule, Babule, Babule Ali Baba, Siolo lele, siole, siole, siole. Siolo lele, siole, 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 siolo lele, siole, 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 siolo lele, siole, siole, siole. Babule Ali Baba, oh Babule, Babule, Babule Ali Baba, Babule Ali Baba, oh Babule, Babule, Babule Ali Baba, Siolo lele, siole, 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 siolo lele, siole, siole, siole. Siolo lele, siole, 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 siolo lele, siole, siole, siole. Ashe.
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 That was beautiful. You have a beautiful voice, Luana.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ashe.
DJ Raymond.
Thank you, everybody. This is wonderful.
Thank you,
We'll see
everyone.
you in
Thank you for the love in the chat. That was beautiful.
next time.
Though they are with you, they belong not to you. You can give them your love, but not your thoughts. For they have their own thoughts. They have their own thoughts. You can house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in a place of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You can strive to be like them, but you cannot make them just like you. Strive to be like them, but you cannot make them just like you. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and the daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but they are not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You can give them your love, but not your thoughts. For they have their own thoughts. They have their own thoughts. You can house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in a place of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You can strive to be like them, but you cannot make them just like you. Strive to be like them, but you cannot make them just like you.
That is so powerful. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Peace and love
Thank
to you.
Peace and
Much
love.
Hold
night.
yourself.
Good night.
Give yourself a
Be
big
careful.
hug.
Mhm.
Long time. But what exactly?
Good night.
Night.
Everybody be safe out there.
Mhm.
Stay warm.
Yes. And don't forget to send that warmth like you promised.
Oh, I am.
I know that
Now I'm
fire.
sending the sun.
Loving these chords.
Yes. Thank you, Luana.
Thank you, Luana.
That was,
Thank
Luana.
you.
that was so fabulous.
A blessing.
Thank you. I
Thank
thank
you.
us. I just feel so blessed that we get to do this.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna keep saying it over and
Ain't
over
no
again.
use
I'm
to
like,
sit and wonder why, babe. It don't matter anyhow. And it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. If you don't know by now.
Recording stopped.